All right, so we have a significant flood threat going on. So we have a moderate risk. This is today, and it extends and covers a lot of the Northeast, I guess I-95 corridor. I tweeted yesterday saying I was kind of most worried about Vermont and maybe kind of Hudson River Valley, I-87 corridor into eastern New York. Uh, and that's, I think, partly because of the mountainous terrain. Coming in for tomorrow, we now have the dreaded pink color, a higher risk for excessive rain and flooding into really much of central and northern Vermont, mostly Vermont, and then maybe just a sliver of extreme northeast New York. I guess St. Lawrence River Valleys. I think that's what they call it. Um, at least that's kind of where it extends up into. So then we have moderate extending down into much of Massachusetts in my area. I think I'm just barely inside of the moderate, which is weird because we're not even expecting that much rain, but it's also like the conditions are just favorable. Let's read really quick what they're saying. So very few changes, but the event is already underway. I'm doing this at 4 p.m. the day of, so we've already had a lot of extreme flooding. I'm not going to go on Twitter too much, but um, I think things are a little slower, I guess, but we've already had heavy rain into Western Mass and Western Connecticut. Um, and I think the other idea is it's going to be the surface low developing tonight and tomorrow. So on top of the convection tonight, we're going to get very widespread heavy rain tomorrow. I'll see the high risk here. Let's see what this is say. So in general, it looks like things are on the uptrend, especially in Vermont, northeastern New York, which I'll be taking a look at. I haven't looked at stuff yet, but I do want to see real quick. Whites for 3 to 5 inches. Local, this is incredible. Because this area has already seen a lot of rain. I was saying before, this is kind of like we saw this in summer 2018. I'm getting 2018 vibes, where you had like this offshore Bermuda high, and then all of the rain was in the interior northeast. And that's generally a lot of hilly, uneven, complex terrain. So you have wet conditions and you're getting this extreme rain event over very mountainous terrain. If you go to, I guess to the Adirondacks, you got the Catskills into kind of southeast upstate New York. You got the Berkshires in western Mass, western Connecticut. You got the Green Mountains in Vermont. So there is a lot of terrain. A lot of terrain. So you get upslope to enhance rainfall. You get, um, just the terrain itself from like mudslides and runoff. So it's not good. But this is insane. Local amounts approaching 12 inches. It looks like there's going to be a convective event tonight, and then a stratiform with embedded convection event tomorrow. Tonight is all about this prefrontal trough and just tons of storms training. Tomorrow looks like we get the actual remnant low tracking along the stationary front north into New England. And that itself is going to bring a very heavy rain event on top of today. So it's kind of two separate events within each other. This is just ridiculous. Again, that is a good chance of a tropical storm amount of rain, pretty much. And I mean, these numbers are just saying it's high end stuff essentially. Uh, and I've been to northern Vermont, and I can tell you it's very very mountainous, and even like thunderstorms, garden variety can cause flooding. And I mean, this is like Ida vibes I'm getting now with the high risk, the day two high risk. They got the year wrong. Irene was, of course, not in 2013. It was in 2011. But it's pretty amazing that this is a non-tropical event, I think. Yeah, so there's a surface low going on top of it. Green and White Mountains. So yeah, the synoptic support. Actually, decent upper level winds. Finally, there's like no wind at the surface, so storms aren't going to be moving that fast. But you do have that southerly flow aloft, so it is a moist flow despite not being that strong. Bring out additional moisture. Yeah, this is exactly what's true. I mean, we have summertime instability and fall time dynamics. So synoptically, is a fall setup with the meridional north and south movement. So that is. Oh yeah, and then we also have this comma ahead. This cyclone is going to occlude. Let's just say get cut off. the front's going to occlude. The cyclone's going to get cut off. It's going to become a closed low. There you go. But we're going to get this comet headband that pivots around Monday night. So I think that the high risk, even though I think personally the more intense rain is going to be tonight, beginning now, continuing tonight. It's the additional soaking rain on top of what falls today that's really going to, I think, make the worst impacts tomorrow. But this is a 48-hour event for a lot of places. Southern New England, so this is where I live. Boston area. We'll see what I get, if anything. I'm barely, I think, in the moderate risk, at least on the edge of it. Flood sensitive areas. Oh yeah. Yep, all the metro areas. So I think it's more dynamics as a question mark. But that's what we got. So is this light for us on? No, it's not. There's definitely gonna be leftover rain, I think. How about for severe weather? Here's today's. It's not really a lot. I mean, I think there's gonna be embedded wind. I think Albany had hail actually earlier today, but maybe embedded hail, but embedded wind. It's pretty marginal, hence the word. And it looks like tomorrow they're shrinking it down. Do we have the tornado? We do not, but we have the wind. These setups, I always feel like I'll show you. This is my turf, but these are the tropical tornado setups. I always think it's more of a tornado threat unless a wind threat, but we'll see. Way underdone. I think dew point's still going to be more 70 to 75, but okay. Instability is going to be an issue for us. Rotation is weak. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. So I want to get into what's going on now. You can see the upper level support. This is kind of the washed out system that was moving through over the weekend. Just no flow right now. And then here's just your kind of digging trough at this point, digging in like this, and you just have deep southerly flow. So I want to zoom in a little bit to kind of what's going on here. And we'll actually pull up the radar, and you can already see what's going on here. So notice these storm motions, all of northern Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and maybe a little bit kind of tri-state area. But what direction are these storms moving? Oh, they have a westerly component. These storms are moving northwest. This is something you would see like with a tropical cyclone down here. In fact, if I just showed you this radar loop and you had no context, I would not rule out thinking, oh, this is probably the remnant of some tropical system that made landfall down like South Carolina, Florida. Like I would not rule that out. But no, this is non-tropical. It's just, I don't even know. I mean, it's just a stationary front, but for some reason, just obscene moisture, insane moisture. And then you have a surface low that is just going to ride up on top of this, on top of areas that already see heavy rain. So again, here's your high risk into Vermont. They're already getting storms. Obviously, some of this is terrain influence. That's why we're getting more stuff to pop. There's more terrain here. You got the Adirondacks. That's terrain too. A lot of the flooding today has been southeastern Pennsylvania into the tri-state area, Hudson Valley, Albany area. And then, we've had additional storms to the northeast. But it looks like the heaviest rain tomorrow is, of course, going to be into New England itself. So I'm more worried about this area, even though, PA, tri-state area, they're getting hit hard. They should be rain-free tomorrow. But it's already getting this. We've had flash flood warnings into northwestern Connecticut earlier from training. There's flash flood warnings to even southwestern New Hampshire through Vermont. So we're already getting flash flood warnings, where in some places it wasn't even supposed to rain yet. So that's my concern. Finally, fun part models. We're going to react to some 18Z nonsense, which is just coming. I haven't even seen it yet, but I do want to take a look at it. And I'll briefly talk about it tomorrow back home and see if we have any chance at tropical supercell chasing. Probably not, but okay, so here's 18Z hertz, fresh off the press. So we're just going to say, so it tries to develop stuff where I am actually, but yeah, I mean, it's got this consistent band going into Vermont still, and then, I mean, it's still going by 9 p.m. We definitely weigh in some instability, and it looks like there might be at least a little bit of a break. Hudson Valley into kind of northeast, kind of that Lake Champlain area. Might be somewhat of a break, which is going to be welcome news. But then we get this next area that fires up overnight. All the models are hitting on this. You have the secondary area firing up right around the New York City tri-state area. I think there's going to be some elevated convection here. This is also kind of that surface low we're talking about. Sometimes you get some slightly steeper lapse rates if you're near, relatively speaking, cold pool loft. Maybe a little bit of cooling drying loft. I mean, it's kind of this skinny cape profile that's just excessive rain. See what we're talking into Vermont. We'll just go to kind of just surrounded by some of that heavy rain. This is, I mean, again, your instability is marginal, so I don't know. I mean, there's going to be thunder at times. At times, it's just going to be a soaking stratiform rain. But notice the flow is it's not strong, so you're not going to have fast storm motions, but your flow is southerly aloft, so that is pumping rich moisture off the Gulf Stream into mountains and have mountainous terrain. It also means the storms are moving that fast, and because your front is north-south or even a little bit of a negative tilt, south-southeast, north-northwest, and you have southerly flow or southeasterly flow over it, you have flow parallel to the front, so that is just storms riding on the front, and that's how you get excessive training. Let's see what happens tomorrow, if anything. Yeah, so it looks like the concern is maybe more tomorrow, hence the high risk. I mean, today I think that there is potential for certainly more intense activity, but you look towards tomorrow, Vermont barely gets out of this. They maybe get a little bit of a sleeper this evening. Then you have that heavier convection pinwheeling in with that southeast flow on the northeast side of this surface low. I mean, you can see it spin. This is a decently strong surface low for non-tropical. This time of year, definitely look like you get some convection into here. I mean, there'll be embedded thunder probably within this stuff. Let's get another sounding. Up in here, probably contaminated. I mean, marginal instability, but look at that southeasterly flow. That's upslope. That's train lifting against the white green mountains. Just the mountains in general. Skinny Cape was saturated with that deep southerly flow aloft, so that is just flood machine. Tropical tornado threat west of Boston, where I am, but I can't roll it down. I mean, it looks like a few rounds. Some of these kidney bean storms you do have to watch. I mean, that definitely looks like those could be at least trying. I'm not sure what we'll get. Do have a bit of an inversion. It's an easterly flow off the relatively cooler Atlantic, so it's going to be hard. Maybe a little bit further west. Here's around Worcester, Mass. Do we have a shot? I don't know. I mean, it's hard with only 200 surface cape. It's going to be tough, but I think we might see a few spinning storms. Just it's going to be hard to get a tornado, but just look how this stuff is still cranking Monday night. I mean, look at all this moisture. It's just wrapping around through the mountains. And this is the ComEd. See that ComEd I was talking about? You're still getting heavy rain into Tuesday morning. It's still raining on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, it's still raining because that ComEd is going to occlude. You get your dry conveyor belt to punch in here, and then you get this instability, this elevated instability. Let's get another sounding from potentially some of this elevated instability. So you're getting drying aloft, but you're still very moist for stratiform rain, efficient rain. So that is just pretty crazy. And that's why you're going to get just some insane totals. I don't even want to look at totals, but you get the idea. I'm thinking widespread 4 to 6 in this kind of this area I'm drawing out. Berkshire, so Western Mass, Vermont, Hudson Valley, Eastern New York, I-87 corridor. I'm thinking widespread 4 to 6, and there'll be pockets that get close to a foot. Here's the NAM 3K M from today, and it's a similar idea. It looks like it's trying to resolve. I mean, that is just, wow, that's scary stuff. I mean, this is even worse, to be honest. Look how it's all, I'm just gonna put my cursor into northern Vermont, and again, you're getting maybe a little breather. If not, it's not even going to stop raining. You're just getting relatively lighter rain, and then you're back into heavy convective embedded thunder rain overnight, and this is just going to continue. It's just continuing. That's just excessive. I mean, like you're not getting a break, and then you get this little just icing on the cake, this comma head. But it's what we've been talking about. Tropical tornado threat back home for me. Let's try it one more time. That's not bad. I mean, honestly, it could be interesting. I would not rule out at least thinking about a 2% tornado. But we tend to get these like Fred remnants, tornado warning over my house. Same setup. I mean, it's not tropical in nature, but and then eventually, New Hampshire's. Don't want to forget about the White Mountains, and then even into parts of Maine, they're going to get their share also, and they might get more with the pinwheel. It's just they're not getting the pre-existing convection that Vermont's already getting. So that's why I'm most worried about Vermont. Can't forget about Western Mass, Northwestern Connecticut either. They're going to have a shot too. I think their rain is more overnight, and then again, just this elevated instability of this comma head continuing into Tuesday morning. And that's just, I guess, a dry conveyor belt. I don't even know. Or no, that's a moist conveyor belt. That's actually really cool. You can see this is the moist conveyor belt. See how it comes off the ocean? Your low center's here. It gets wrapped around the low. And then if I just put my cursor down here, you got this northwest flow. This is what I was just telling you. It's showing up here with that moisture. Maybe a little bit of drying aloft. It's getting wrapped in there. So just pretty tremendous stuff. And then, I don't know, I mean, it stays active. It looks like we're going to get more heavy, slow-moving storms into the end of the week, early weekend. Don't want to go over that yet. We'll just get some of these insane QPF totals. Just give me some garbage here. So, I mean, that's looking at just, this is just on Monday, and then we're going to get this additional around Tuesday night. So, yeah, I mean, it's not unreasonable. This is all mountainous here. I mean, you got the Connecticut River Valley, Berkshires, up into Green Mountains. I mean, this pretty ridiculous totals. Even like up towards like Montreal, southern Quebec, they're gonna have some issues too. Although it's a lot flatter over there, so maybe not as bad. This is not considering 1, 2, maybe 3 inches. It's already fallen today with ongoing storms right now. Here's the 18Z Her. And it should be just more of the same, probably. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's that widespread, looks like 2 to 4. Widespread 2 to 4, I think, is what I'd be going with. And then at least pockets that are going to really get it. So, I mean, yeah, we're talking about like Ida type flooding, of course, less populated, further northwest. But it has more of a meridional component, so it's tough to find analogs. I mean, they're saying Irene, but it's not. I don't think Irene is a real analog. I think in terms of impact, it's definitely possible. I think Irene is still a more widespread, like half-foot of rain. But I don't hate the analog in terms of impact. We had an event, very unheard of event. It was July 23rd, 24th of 2008. I just remember this day because it thundered for like 10 hours straight and I could not sleep that night. But this might be a similar analog where it was mid to late July. We actually had a warm front / backdoor cold front over kind of the I-90 corridor into southern New England. We had elevated convection during the afternoon. There was a cold front back in here, a very slow moving cold front. They had a lot of afternoon convection. Evening convection on the cold front prefrontal trough. Then overnight, we had this warm conveyor belt, level jet, kept getting redeveloped to like redeveloping convection on this moving north warm front level jet the whole night. It thundered the whole night with just training convection. And then we had some training convection over the Berkshires into Vermont from the cold front. And then that next day, the cold front was into kind of central New England and it fired up a squall line, very slow moving squall line. Additional heavy rain for eastern Mass. New Hampshire had an EF2 tornado, long track EF2 tornado that day. And then just trailing stratiform rain as that low and cold front eventually moved out to sea. And that produced, I think, some at least localized half-foot plus totals. And I think it's maybe a bit of a similar event where you have convection the day before and then secondary convection / low pressure moving through the next day. But that's about what I have. Don't mess around with high risks. They're pretty serious. I mean, the last one really for here would be, of course, Ida, and we know how that went. So please, if you're in the area, especially Vermont, please just be weather aware, because this is not, it's just not stuff you want to mess around with. It really isn't. Have a plan. Again, here's a moderate today. Don't want to forget about Eastern PA and New Jersey, but they're more of just today. I think it's really that mountainous terrain that I'm most worried about. Those are high risk. So that's about what I have. And I'll see you in a future video. Again, we're just doing these for some of the really big weather events in the Northeast, like this. So enjoy.